Hello, and welcome once again to Dr. Bill Speaks. This is our Spiritual Journey, Volume 7. Today, I would like to talk a little bit about greed and how greed will keep us from being able to love ourselves and one another. I'd also like to say for those who have not seen the 5 volumes of the belief system, to go back and review those, and it will help us to understand our jumping off point from moving from beliefs, which are not facts, into a different mindset of spirituality. Okay? One of the things we talked about in the belief system was that the biggest ripoff ever pulled against humankind is when the first person or the first group roped off something and said, "This is mine." Because prior to that, just think about it. Everybody had equal access to everything. Everybody could get what they need. Fruit was free, vegetable was free, animals were free, and you get what you need. And everybody had equal access to whatever it was. The land was free, housing was free, everything was free until somebody one day roped off something and said, "This is mine. And if you want part of it, it's gonna cost you." They assigned a value to what was free. Now they had no right to assign a value to what was free because the universe created it. Nobody made it. We didn't make it, we didn't develop it, and we didn't evolve it, But somehow, but through force and ignorance and developing systems that gave us the, quote, rights to these things, and gave us an educational system to teach us about the rights that people had to own what was free. So now we got the ability to control everything within reach of our teachings and our religion. Because what authorized our authority, what gave us authority to own, was our political system and our religion. As a matter of fact, one religion say they're the chosen people, and God gave them certain land for their in perpetuity. And at the same time, that same religion say, well, nobody's never seen God. I don't know how they deal with that contradiction. But the thing is that the world is convinced that what they own or what they say is theirs is theirs. And wars have been fought to keep so that they can maintain and keep what they say is theirs. Now, the control over resources then begin to have a value. And even though the things are free, if we control it through force, through education, through religion, then we can begin to assign a value to it. In other words, the fruit trees that you have been coming and getting fruit off of to feed your family, or the hogs that you have been hunting, or the rabbits that you've been catching to feed your family, you can no longer do that unless you gave us something that we want. Either your daughter, something that you have. If you got arts and craft, or if you make things, we want that. And since we have possession now of the things that are produced by the universe, then we then now have access to surplus. We have more than what we need. See, prior to roping something off and prior to private ownership, we didn't have to have more than we need because it's there every day. Well, and now that it's not there every day, we develop a sense of scarcity. As a matter of fact, we're taught scarcity. But there's no scarcity. Just think about it. Let's say that we have a fruit, any kind of fruit. Well, the way that fruit evolved, it evolved with multiples, most of them I say, with multiple seeds. Now, if an animal get that and they take it and eat it and they swallow the seed and they're droppings, they drop a seed, it'll grow another tree. We took those seeds and plant them all in a row or however, we'll grow more trees. So that one tree can produce multiple fruits, trees. And those multiple fruit trees can produce multiple fruit, each one. And each one of those fruit can produce more. So we don't have a scarcity. We have an abundance, But when we believe the notions of, we listen to our belief system say that we have a scarcity. And I've said many times in doing the belief system, that beliefs are not facts. The fact of the matter, that if you have an animal and you make that animal, the animal is going to produce more of its kind. So as long as we have anything, it's going to always produce more of it. And once you produce, if you have any animal and they produce 4 or 5 in a birth, and they have several births within a lifetime, each thing that it produces also has a birth, give birth. And it can produce multiple in a lifetime. So even starting with one of anything, over time we have multiple, it begins to multiply, But now, in order to control the value, what I have to do is to go through a different mathematical thing. Is I have to subtract. I have to take some off the market so that the value of what's left goes up. It's like when the oil companies see that the price of gas is low and they want more profits, they just hold on to the oil. They say, oh, we had a problem here. Something happened. We can't produce more oil, so we got to raise the price of gas so we can have more money so we can dig for more oil. Give me a break. And we go along with it, mainly out of fear. Because you see, as we talked about in the belief system, the world is made up of 2 different systems. We have that system, that spiritual system, the one that's eternal, the one that's created by God. And that system is based on love. But then we have the world system that is based on fear. And when we talk about greed, when we talk about greed, some people say, the professional people, educated people, say that, greed is based on anxiety and insecurity. Comes from, and some say, greed comes from early negative experiences in our lifetime. Some say it's an evolutionary adaptation to survival. Then some say it's a cultural influence. Some poor people or some rich people just born to be greedy. Well, I say that none of that makes any sense if you really think about what life really is. You want to seek truth. You see, greed, none of these is a cause of greed, because greed is an effect, but it's an effect of fear. You see, all of these explanations can be said to be fear-based. If we believe something is scarce, if we're afraid that we won't have enough, that's fear. If we're afraid that we need more, that's fear. If we're afraid that our profits go down, if we don't control more of the resources, that's fear. If the CEO feel like they're going to be fired, if they don't control the oil and make more money for the 1%, that's fear. You see, each one of these fears then encourage us to have more than we need. You know, I look at myself, you know, like I don't need very much, but I got 2 refrigerators and a freezer. That's greed. And a lot of us say, well, you just making sure you got what you need. No, and at the same time, we say that God will supply all our needs. You know, we can't have it both ways. You know, we have to take ownership of our greed. See, because when we take more than we need, we're also taking from those who need it. You know, greed creates needs. You know, and when we are greedy, we create the needy. And then we judge the needy as being less ambitious than us. Maybe the needy has more spirituality than us. Maybe the needy has really believed that God would take care of them. You know, see, maybe if we start looking at ourselves, that we think of greed, having more than we think of loving our neighbors. See, we can't love our neighbors unless we truly believe that our brothers, and I say brothers because souls have no gender. You know, so, you know, you can say sisters if you want to, but however, but I can't be spiritually mature if I don't think that my neighbor or my brother should have everything that I have. You know, should have their desires met. Should be able to eat just like I'm able to eat. You know, that's what it is to love neighbor as self. Not loving self and also loving neighbor. But Jesus tells us to love neighbor as self. You know, when you love neighbor as self, then the love from God, you know, becomes part and parcel of how I interact and treat our neighbor. How we live with one another, you know, it defines both me and my neighbor. It defines my love and my love for my neighbor. You know, we can't have it both ways. We can't have it where we can select and choose when we want to have more and our neighbors have less and call that love. We have to learn that greed creates needs, that the greedy, you know, creates the needy. And that in between, that middle class that's standing in both ways, that at any time can go from having enough to not having enough, what they call the middle class, you know, that's what it is. It's you know, as long as you can help us control the majority of the people, you get a little more. But the moment that you stop helping us control those other ones down there, then you get a little less. And if we decide that we want more money, then everybody get a less. That's when the middle class becomes the new poor. You know, so we have to make sure that we understand that greed is a means of learning how not to love our neighbors. And that greed, it works in every class because we fear that we won't have enough. But I stopped by to tell you today that everything is free. You know, we gave it value. We made it costly. And we make it so that everybody can have their share of the pie. Thank you for listening at Volume 7. And we will continue our discussion on love in Volume 8. I hope you understand that greed creates need and that the greedy is what creates the needy. Thank you, and you have a great day.